Some fun.
Ew.
All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our final day of programming at Changemaker and Residency Week. We are so stoked that you can join us today, especially early on in the morning. It's been a full week of programming already. For those of you who are in our time zone, it's 9 a.m., but also a good afternoon and a good evening to those of you who might be joining us from other places. So really, really happy you could be here and sharing this. I'm personally super excited for a couple of reasons. One, I think this session that Laura's created is absolutely magical, and I'm really, really stoked that students get the chance to experience this. And tied to that, I'm also really stoked that you get to experience Laura Koza. She's one of my favorite humans in the world, and she's the one who's going to be facilitating today's session. So before we dive into the full session, everything like that, just a couple, I know you're all Zoom ninjas and you're all mural ninjas by now, but I always want to give this little reminder of to please make sure that your mic is muted unless you're actually speaking, just to ensure we don't get any feedback or anything like that. Also want to let you know that you can obviously ask questions as we go along, but if you're more comfortable, feel free to drop your question in the chat. If we can address it right away, we will, but if not, either I or Laura will be always monitoring the chat, so we'll make sure that we can circle back around and give you the opportunity to try to ask that question via the chat. The other piece on that is we know that some students, a lot of the session is going to be on Mural, but there's going to be, for some students, a bit of a barrier to accessing Mural. So while we're thrilled that you can contribute in any way, if you do feel like we can't quite get to the Mural, feel free to drop your answers and your contributions into the chat as well. So whether that's in the main session or when we go into our breakout groups, if you don't have access to the mural, you can always still contribute with your voice if you take yourself off mute or via the chat box as well. So just want to make sure that everybody is aware of that opportunity. Also, when it comes to cameras, we love seeing your amazing faces. If you're comfortable to go on camera, that's amazing. One heads up is that we are recording this session. So if you're not comfortable having your face or your home or whatever being recorded, then we totally understand. We also understand for some of you, bandwidth just won't allow the opportunity to actually connect. So for those who can, that's amazing. For those who can't, we totally understand. And we look forward to either hearing your voices or seeing your contributions in chat. And so just like every event at every session at Changemaker Residency Week, we always love to begin with a land acknowledgement. And so for that, I'm going to pass it over to our facilitator, Laura Koza, to kick us off.
Yeah, thank you so much. Wow, what a beautiful intro. You're setting the tone right away for lots of love and goodness to happen in this session. Thank you. So before we get going, something that is really important to me as I continue my own relationship with the land and the people that came before me is this recognition of acknowledging the land and acknowledging that I am a settler on this land and acknowledging that I have so much to learn from the people that came before me and so much to be grateful for this land that provides me. So sort of something I have been building this relationship on, and I am really starting to recognize, I don't know about any of you, but just the true importance of this land as we are in such a heavy virtual environment. I know my own personal connection to the land has really gone up. And I'm more than that, I'm really starting to be grateful for all those little nuances that the land has to offer. So I am very gratefully, very humbly acknowledging that I am a settler on the lands of the Haudenosaunee people. I live in Aurelia, Ontario, and am very, very grateful to learn and grow from the people that came before me and be able to honor and receive the gifts that this land gives me. So thank you all for being part of my land acknowledgement. The other thing I like to offer is in this beautiful virtual environment, we have the privilege to come from so many different lands. So recognizing that if a land acknowledgement is in your practice, I invite you to do so in the chat, share where you're from and share why that's important to you. If it is not in your practice, I invite you to learn a little bit more about it and why it's an important practice to embody. There's a fantastic resource called, I think it's nativeland.ca. Maybe Q can put the link in the chat for us. Just a great chance to go and learn about where your land is from and who the Indigenous people were that came before you. So, excuse me. I'll pass it back to Q to get us started in mural before we officially get going.
I'm laughing trying to find my mute. We keep switching platforms, team. And so yesterday I was in WebEx and then I was in a Teams meeting, and like trying to share my screen or find where that mute button is just getting funnier and funnier. You'd think by now we'd be experts at it, but so not. So just before we dive into the mural and we actually go right into the workshop, also wanted to give you a heads up about the Say My Name campaign. So I know you might have heard a little bit about this earlier, but I've got a link for anyone who maybe hasn't. This is a quick little video. Encourage you just to copy paste the link and maybe take a look at it afterwards. Always love to shout out though to our Georgian students who actually created this program. This was an Enactus group. And you can see even in my name bar at the bottom there that I've set up a phonetic spelling of Quentin. And so one of the things that Say My Name really looks to do is to try and decrease the amount of intimidation factor that we kind of feel when we're trying to reach out to someone. So especially as students, we sometimes are a little nervous to ask somebody who's either maybe facilitating a session, or maybe it's in a job scenario, or even an instructor scenario too. And we don't want to mispronounce the name. So Say My Name is this campaign that gives us the chance to feel a little bit more comfortable and a little bit more confident in terms of being able to approach each other and have that conversation. For those of you, this CRW is, we would call this, a bit of a conference, and it's a virtual conference because of the circumstances right now. And that's something where when we maybe aren't in sort of our current situation, we would be gathering together in different rooms in that traditional way, and we'd all have name tags. And it's a really great example of, being able to put that phonetic spelling in your name tag. We just feel that much more comfortable being able to actually go up and start a conversation with someone rather than kind of guessing at what their name is. I've always been someone whose name people found difficult to pronounce, with it Clayton, I don't know. And that's, totally understandable. So what we really want is to try and eliminate some of those barriers. Okay, with that, I'm going to drop our mural link into our chat for those of you who can join on mural. Here it comes right now. All right, we'll wait for a few to come in. And again, know you're all mural ninjas. You've done this a million times throughout Changemaker and Residency Week, but we always like to start off at the actual warm-up question. So I'm going to momentarily share my screen for those of you who maybe can't follow, if you're on maybe your phone or something like that. Hopefully you can all see that now. And where I'm going to start is just in our step 1. So we're going to do this little welcome and check-in. So this is a chance for us just to get a little bit more comfortable with using Mural, with actually using some of the sticky notes. And really, I should have just summoned everyone. So, I'm not a facilitator. No summoning today. Today, you are your own person. You get to follow if you want. If you're a little lost, you can always go to the outline on the right-hand side like I did. Go to step 1. And basically, we've got 3 warm-up questions for you. So the very top, our very first question right here is, what is your favorite snack food? So especially for those of you who may be joining overseas, that might be sort of later in the day, you might be getting right into snack time. Really, really curious to know, what is your favorite snack food? And of course, you can drop in either a sticky note and write that in, or feel free, if you're feeling a little more confident in Mural, you can go along the left-hand side and you can see that there are some images that you could pull out to put in there too. The question at the bottom is, what are you bringing to this space today? And I encourage you to actually take a little extra second to think about this, because it's really, really relevant to the session that Laura is going to be facilitating in terms of where you stand, what's the energy that you're bringing in. This could be a physical thing that you're bringing in. This could be a psychological, emotional, spiritual thing that you're bringing in. Encourage you just to think about it a little bit more and try to figure out where you're standing. Much like when we just heard Laura give her land acknowledgement, making that personal connection. So what are you bringing in? to this particular session today. And then right in the middle, you can see there's a bonus question. And the bonus question today is, we'd love to hear if you had an aha moment, a wow moment during one of the other sessions that took place at Changemaker Residency Week. Maybe one of the other ones you either got to attend live or maybe an asynchronous one that you watched. What was something that kind of stood out to you, an aha moment, something that maybe you'll take away from the experience that you could share with us today? And so I'm seeing a bunch come in here. Favorite snack food, ketchup chips. Very Canadian answer. Digging that. Really digging the that piece there. I'm a big fan of ketchup chips myself. Popcorn and cheese. Nice. Chips. Someone stole my sticky note. See, this is the thing. We get to day 5 and people are getting even funnier. Yogurt, fruit. We got veggie and dip. Some real healthy options here. Some cheese and crackers. And we'll just slide down to, oh, I want to see what that one says there. Water balls. I don't know what those are, but they sound, actually, they don't actually sound that delicious, but that's sometimes how that happens with snacks. Like the actual name of the snack doesn't quite, bring us in quite as strong. And just want to take a look at that second question, which is to say, what are you bringing today? I'm seeing a positive attitude and open mindset. That's amazing. That's exactly oh, awesome. Armen Rai Samosa in the chat. Love that. Positive attitude, excited to learn, ready to listen, ready to learn something new, optimism. No dumb users, only dumb products. Love it. We have a Tim Prestero fan. What a great concept for us to really hold, right? In terms of when we're thinking about human-centered design, when we're thinking about putting people at the center of the work that we're trying to do, always recognizing that, yeah, no dumb products, only, no dumb users, only dumb products. I see Amanda in the chat saying crisps, not attending any other session, but I think you're bringing an open mind and keenness to learn. Awesome contributions, Amanda. Thank you. Okay, and then our bonus question. Always just kind of curious to see what some of our takeaways, the visualization of our favorite outdoor setting and taking a moment to center ourselves. Honestly, that was one of my favorites too. So this came from the Decolonization Cafe and potentially some other sessions. I know that I incorporated into my session yesterday as well. Love that visualization technique and that moment to sort of just ground ourselves, to remember and appreciate our relationship a little bit. And always find it so fascinating to watch my own personal energy kind of shift when I take that little moment of centering. We call it maybe mindfulness, but in the lens of the land acknowledgement, when you think about our opportunities to learn and actually be really, really present, that's always a great one when we get that little opportunity to kind of center ourselves, to ground ourselves, think about what we're bringing, thinking about where our relationship is. I found it so cool. There was an international webinar. Great to connect with others from outside of Canada. Yeah, I just heard from a student yesterday about a session that involved a lot of international people. And this is such a beautiful thing, not only for those who got to experience it from our culture, but also for those who were involved from the other culture. Like, what a great culture share. And that's really what we're looking to achieve here at CRW. There's no empathy without self-care and no self-care without empathy. Love it. Great takeaway. The fatality rate in residential schools. Yeah, perspective. Yeah, so that's part of this too, right? As we're building up our soft skills and our learning, we're also sort of unlearning maybe some biases that we had or some pieces that we weren't aware of. And that's fantastic. Going to end it off with small but meaningful things can make the most effective changes. I think that's a really powerful capture for Changemaker and Residency Week. Sometimes we get caught up in thinking, if we're going to make change, it has to be this huge change. And if the small little change I'm doing just isn't that valuable. And I think we'll see today through Laura's workshop that a lot of the small things add up to making really amazing leadership things and individuals. So, okay, well, with that warm up out of the way, I will stop sharing my screen and I will pass it over to Laura to take us through this awesome workshop.
What a beautiful introduction. Yeah, thank you, Q, for that. It's just so, yeah, it's so important to set the stage and have some of these really meaningful conversations as we get going. And yeah, I am very, very grateful for you for hosting that and for these wonderful participants to get a little bit of a flavor of you as well. So thank you all for being here today. I'm so grateful to share space with you for the next hour and 15 minutes. Today we're going to have a chance to debunk this concept, this conversation, have a conversation about leadership. What does it mean for you? What is management? How do values sort of get pulled into it? So hopefully it'll be a really meaningful and impactful conversation. Something I heard earlier this week that I really loved and have been saying, I think, in most of my sessions is this concept of stretch, not tear. These conversations tend to be a little bit emotional and a little bit vulnerable. So I invite all of you to really lean into that and to be okay with that and to stretch and to share and to sort of maybe step into that courage a little bit that you might not normally. Recognizing that we don't want anyone to tear today, so we're not going to push anyone too hard, but I do hope that you have little conversations with yourself about how you want to show up today, because that's what this is all about, is showing up for yourself so that we can have these really meaningful moments. And something that I kind of always selfishly say at the beginning of a session is that I really think that I'm super cool. I think that I'm amazing. I think that I have a ton to offer you guys. But I also know that you don't want to listen to me talk solely for the next hour and a half. So I really invite you to contribute in whatever way that means for you. So the mural is a great way, the chat's a great way, but also know that I love it when people come and they speak and they ask questions and they turn their videos on and they're part of it. So if that's comfortable for you, I ask you to, recognizing everybody has different levels of comfort and we don't want anyone to tear today. One quick little engagement that I know you all can do is if you are not comfortable being on your camera, something that's really easy is the reactions button in the bottom. Just gives me that little feedback around, oh, there's a big spider on my wall. Just gives me that little feedback around what's going on and how are you taking some of this stuff? So the reactions, you guys are all Zoom ninjas at this point. Smiley face with a plus sign. Yeah, if you guys use those reactions as we go, it just gives me a little bit of feedback that you're here and you're people behind these screens and you have thoughts and feelings and hopefully care about what we're talking about. I know you all will. Wonderful. So this morning, I want to start this conversation off with this question. What does leadership mean to you? When you think about the word leadership, when you think about a leader, what does that mean to you? How does that show up for you? Anything, whether you want to tell me the definition of leader, whether you want to offer traits of a leader, whether you want me to tell me your connection with leadership, just what is leadership? What does it mean for you? So again, you can answer Zoom, mural, mute. Sounds good, but I think it should be off mute. Yeah. Support, inspiring others, someone who guides others in a certain direction. I love this. The ability to engage with others and bring people with you. I love that. Beautifully said. Leadership is a practical skill, and a positive leader is someone who leads by example. Beautiful. Taking charge when I don't like it, which I don't like. Oh, sorry. Yeah, super fair. Communication, when someone is helping motivate others and yourself. I love that connection back to you. Really, really powerful. Some in the mural, understanding the vision and having a plan to see it through. Really well said. We've got some others. Lead by example. Someone who has the ability to guide others. Taking initiative and still being able to engage with teammates, not to just rule or boss them around. Love that. According to me, leadership is the quality in a person to collectively work with people with different perspectives and motivate them to work in a healthy environment. So gorgeous. Oh, I forgot to turn off my Teams. Challenging you to act and to achieve more and provide support when needed. So good. My goodness, this person sounds okay. Just 1 second. Close window. Quit. There we go. Anyone want to share? Leadership, what does that mean to you? Okay. So my question for you, when you think of all of these beautiful things that we have said in the chat, all these beautiful things that are being said on the mural, can you think of a single human that embodies all of them? In the last session, someone wrote my mom, and I thought that was the most beautiful answer I'd ever heard. So, except maybe our mothers, because mothers are a superpower in their own right. I don't think I can. Like, there is so much here. All of them at one time. No, yeah. Yeah, I thought that was really cute too. Yeah, there is just so much here. And when we think about leadership, it's this big and massive thing. And what I know I often do is I often think of leaders as these kind of super people, the superhumans of the earth. We put them up on a pedestal and we forget that they are human beings with thoughts, feelings, and actions. Yeah. We've got another message here about my parents, which is so beautiful. Thank you so much. Yeah, so why do we do this? Why do we make leadership so unattainable that we think you have to be or have the superhuman trait to identify as a leader? Yeah, so yeah, lots of beautiful comments about family. No one in my family is leader. We follow each other around. Yeah, that happens because we are all human beings. We are all human beings with our own thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And why is it that it's okay that what I need out of a friend is different than what you need out of a friend? And it's okay that I'm not going to be friends with everybody in the entire world. But for some reason, a leader needs to be the right leader for everybody. So I want to invite us to start thinking about leadership as individual people who have individual thoughts, feelings, and actions, and show up as themselves in service of themselves and connect with the people that they connect with. There's this beautiful quote that I love from this book that is kind of funnily named a very short and fairly interesting and reasonably cheap book about studying leadership. And the quote is, if you do not aspire to change something and do not have a good reason to change it, you cannot and should not lead. Again, it's a beautiful quote. But what are we changing? Recognizing that change making shows up differently for every individual. And it's about finding your passions and finding your strengths and deciding what you want to change. So does leadership. Okay. So then my question to you, my next question, when you think about management and you think about a manager or management or however that shows up, how does management show up for you? In what ways do you recognize management? Yeah. Sorry, I'm just going back up. There was a few little comments in the chat that I missed, and I shouldn't say little because they're huge and big and beautiful with insights. So thank you for those. And I loved the comments that it seems, I feel like humans make it seem like an impossible task because leaders are expected to please everyone, which is impossible. Yeah. So good. Okay. I also like this conversation. I don't like to lead. It's stressful. You're right. It is. Hopefully we're going to debunk that a little bit too. Management makes me think of leadership without emotional involvement. I like that. It's a really good take. Thank you, Leslie. Those ensuring people are following the rules and tasks. The most out of touch person in the building. That can often be true. Thank you for that. Organizing and creating boundaries for work to be the best contained and presented. Responsible. Management includes planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. Management is someone who gives you support to do your best and brings the vision and some clarity to things. Management goal setting and keeping people on track for deadlines, more practical than leaders. I like that too. I'm highly leery of management because I find many situations in power is thrust upon them through an instant title very fast when the power corrupts, which is why I look for leaders instead. Interesting. Yeah, this like leader good, management bad kind of concept. Really, yeah, thank you for sharing that. Management is like a pyramid structure. At every stage, there are different roles to perform. If one work will be managed, then it will be reflected good management skills to other departments. Absolutely. Managers get their authority from their position, but leaders can come from anywhere. Love that. Yeah, so beautiful. Such gorgeous insights. Again, does anyone want to speak? It's Friday morning. We'll let the coffee flow a little bit before we come back to you guys. Yeah, I love this concept around debunking this difference between management and leadership. And what I like to think of, and my own personal definition, and I am not saying this is the global definition, but this is a definition I'd like to move forward with today, is quite similar to one that was said in the chat. That management is about the position. It's about the structure. It's about recognizing where you fit within a system. It's about using your position to make sure things happen. Where the leader and the leadership is the quality and the choice in how we choose to show up. So when we think about managers, there are many, many incredible managers that are impactful, beautiful, inspiring leaders. There are many impactful, beautiful, inspiring leaders that are not managers. And there are many managers that are not leaders. I think I've taken them all. I think I've done them all now. So really starting to think about management is something that you're working within, you're working towards, whatever that might be. Leadership is a choice every day in how you show up. So I would love to ask how many people in this room right now, currently pre-workshop, let's even say 32 minutes ago, identify as a leader. If you could put a reaction up. So we've got 9. 9 people here currently identify as a leader out of 64. That's a pretty high number. And the amount of times I have asked this question with different people, I am not a leader. I try, but I need work. Yeah, and there was a comment earlier about how I don't want to lead, leading stressful. Yeah, this is like a real thing. We imagine leaders as these like beautiful pedestal people who get everything right at all times. And how I am going to try and shift your mindset today and hopefully empower you to think is I want at the end of this, everyone to recognize that they are a leader and they have the capacity to lead. I had someone share on our last workshop on Wednesday, and it took them almost the whole workshop to flip their language from talking about other people leading to talking about ourselves leading. This is not easy work. This is really hard work, but everything we talk about from now on forward, I want to flip into personal experience rather than an old boss, an amazing human, an old mentor. How are you going to show up as a leader? The older I get, the more confident I become in leading. Absolutely. And I would even offer that leading is not as grandiose as we think it is. So my next question as we enter into this is when you think about values, what are values? Leaders are often made. People just appoint you and accept it. And boom. Yeah. And Cole, I love that insight. So important. And what I am going to try and flip us into thinking is that those are managers. The leaders that are made are the managers. You are all leaders. You do not need anyone to tell you you are a leader to be a leader. Things we believe that guide our behaviors and reactions, fundamental beliefs that motivate individuals' attitudes and actions. Values are driving principles of what's important to you. Values are what's important to us. Example, integrity. Values are something you strongly believe in and hold deeply in your heart. Values to me are the things that we believe in and care about and guide us. Values aren't negotiable. I like that a lot. Values are the things that are most important to you. Subjectively good core beliefs. Yeah. Values set premises for boundaries. I like that a lot. Yeah. See some more writing here. Core beliefs of what we hold important, what we value in our interactions and in our life. Values are the qualities of a person. Oh gosh. Yeah. You guys have it. You guys are so, there's lots happening in the chat here too. Values make us who we are. Love that. Sometimes we find out we value the wrong things. Then they can be changed. Super important too, as we grow and change. The things we value might change. Help us show up what makes us passionate, like valuing materialistic things. Well, values are ethics, beliefs, and morals which intend are reflected by motivating an individual to uplift mentally and physically and emotionally. Gorgeous. By subjectively good, I mean that we often value people. What people value is toxic. Holding part guides our life choices. Yeah, guys, just spectacular. One of the My favorite definitions of values I ever heard or read is anyone who's been in my sessions before has probably heard me mention Brene Brown. She's a big human in my life, and I say that like she's my best friend. She is, but she just doesn't know it yet. I love her writing. I love her insights. I think she has a lot of beauty to offer us. And she defined values as a way of being or believing that we hold most important. And I just think that's such a simple way of defining values. How are we being? How are we believing that is most important to us? Now, when I did a little bit of research on values, what I was able to understand, and this is going to, I don't know how this will make you feel, but you cannot, as a human being, have more than 5 values. There's research out there that says if you have more than 5 values, you don't know what your values are. Brene Brown, Q, will you check her name in the chat too? Thanks. So the optimal number of values to have, according to research, because we know human emotion always has numbers a part of it, but they say that the optimal number of values that you should hold is 2 to 4. When you have more than 5 values, you don't know what your values are. And I will say, I did this exercise about 1.5 years ago. How long ago now? And it took me a long time. This was not sit down for an hour, think about my values, write them out. It was weeks and months of Post-it notes, mapping out major decisions in my life, trying to decide what connected, why I did certain things, trying to recognize what I'm passionate about, trying to recognize why I show up the way that I do, trying to think about what I care about. And for me, I would even say that when I started this was like, okay, I've got 5 values. I've got them. I've got 5. And then over the past year, I've really actually been able to boil them down to my 3 values. And I will share that my 3 values are authenticity, kindness, and growth. And if anyone's been in a session with me, it was really hard not to put empathy on that list. And for me, what I was able to learn about myself is that if I show up authentically who I am, with kindness, empathy is just naturally part of that. It's not its own separate category, it's just part of who I am. So I will say that we're about to, not yet, we're going to hopefully have a little conversation, but in a minute, we're going to have a chat about what values are and why they're important. And I really struggled to not just make an activity that helped people find their values. But the reason why I didn't do that is because I authentically don't believe you can figure out your values in an hour. I think this requires deep reflection and really honest conversations with yourself about what do I actually value and how does that show up in my life. Let's just take a pause. Any thoughts, feelings, emotions, comments, insights, contributions, jokes? Yeah, is it Millie?
Hi, yeah, it's Millie.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I've always thought of myself as quite like a values-driven person, but just when you were saying that there, I realized that I've never actually sat down and thought about like what the main values are. I've just always thought of it as like, oh, I want to do good things, and that's kind of been the force behind thinking of myself as values-driven. But yeah, I definitely need to do some work to identify exactly what those values are.
Oh, thank you so much for that insight, and thank you so much for sharing today. And I think you hit the nail on the head. I know for me, before I really dove into this and was able to think about this, is values are sort of this overarching like, hey, if I act with values, then I'm a good person. What values are you acting with? A really, really groundbreaking moment, and this might seem quite rudimentary to some, for me, was this concept that every single person in the globe acts according to their values. Some people just don't have values that I connect with. For example, like I always hate to use this example, but it's such a good one. So I apologize if this, I don't know, is a little too political for people, but for example, Donald Trump has values that are different than mine. That doesn't mean he doesn't have values. It doesn't mean he doesn't act with values. His values are just different than mine. So I just love, love, love that insight, Millie. Thank you so much. Anyone else have thoughts, feelings, questions, insights? I see Amanda wrote in the chat here, how do you recognize values? I read this really interesting article lately. I should forewarn you guys, I'm currently taking my master's in leadership. So this is a topic that's very passionate to me. And I get a little bit geeky on, so excuse the little bit of geekiness. But I just read this article recently that said you can't teach someone how to do something unless you want to expect them to do it that way for the rest of their life. So sharing an activity with someone, like the example, is amazing and inspiring and insightful, but I'm very cautious to say this is how you get to your values, because that journey might look different for you than it does for me. What I will say for me, I started with a list of values actually from Brene Brown, which I'm going to share with you guys in this activity, and then actually sat down for 2 days and wrote more words. I left with like 3 computer-sized things, font size 12, of columns of lists of words that were important to me. Then I started highlighting them, and the ones I highlighted, I put on Post-it notes. Then when the ones that were on Post-it notes, I started grouping. And then I started grouping them. Then I started thinking about major life decisions in my experience and what they looked. And so for me, it was a very visual thing. I had basically a Bristol board and a bunch of Post-it notes and a lot of paper and highlighting. So potentially not the most environmentally friendly version of how to do this, and might resonate with you, might not. Release your geek. Oh, be careful what you wish for. Yeah, I love that you don't know what you have until it's gone. Thank you for that. And we talked a little bit earlier about your values might change. And surfacely, of course they will. But what I would offer is that your core values are your core values, and how they show up is how they change. So like, for example, when I was younger, I still have way more energy than most people. I smile and I'm a little bit bubbly, and I always just thought of that as my weird. And I sort of, like, for my own identity was like, I'm the weirdo and this is who I am. We're recognizing my weirdness is actually just me being authentic to who I am and how I show up. So they might change. You might have a different relationship with your core values throughout your life, but theoretically, your core values are your core values. But everything, of course, is theoretical, and everything, of course, is coming back to this concept that you are the expert of you. Any other, anything? Yeah. You guys are so wonderful. You always make my heart shine. There's also a few familiar names and faces in here, and just a shout out to those people. I'm so grateful for you guys to continue to come back and hang out with me. Yeah, you are the expert of you is such an important statement. And I won't dive too deep into it, but is the core of leadership, and is the core of empathy, and is the core of understanding yourself. So we know that I know myself, hopefully, better than other people's know me. And I need to act, only I can recognize and debunk my values. I can ask for help, I can ask for insight, I can ask for thought, but ultimately they're mine. Yeah. Yeah, sometimes it's letting go of values you think you should have. I remember reading Brene Brown's book, Dare to Lead, fantastic book if anyone is looking for a good read. And in it, she wrote, I struggled and felt like one of my values should have been family. But if I was being authentic to myself, it was not. Like, or something like, but she talked about how it was hard for her to let go of one of her values while being able to recognize her others. Okay, so not quickly, hopefully, long and beautifully. I just want to offer this little tidbit to think about how do we integrate our values into leadership. So we've had this beautiful conversation about values and how they show up for us. We've had this beautiful conversation about leadership and what I sort of nicknamed pedestal leadership. What are these people that we're putting on pedestals? So how do we debunk this pedestal leadership while thinking about our values, while understanding management? I see someone had their hand up and it went down really quick. Was it just a mistake or did you want to share something? Okay. Oh, no stress at all. It's all good. I just wanted to make sure you had space to chat if you wanted to. Okay, so first of all, when we think about values-based leadership, the first thing we know is that we cannot live into values that we cannot name. So we've spent a long time talking about this. Being able to recognize what our specific values are is key to being able to make choices to live into them. If we don't know what our values are, we're not making everyday choices in service of those values. Second one, I'm going to swear here. So earmuffs for anybody who is not okay with that, everybody earmuffs. You need to take your values from bullshit to behavior. So it's not about, oh my gosh, look at me. My name's Laura Koza. My value is kindness because I'm so good to people. That was a weird voice. But it's really saying, what does kindness actually mean to me and how am I going to show up in service of kindness? Instead of just speaking about it, what are the choices and actions I am going to make to actually live into my values? And the third, and what I would argue to be the most important integration of values and leadership is this constant reminder of empathy and self-compassion. 100,000%, every single one of you guys are going to get it wrong at one point in your life, including me. Definitely Quentin, I'm just teasing. You're gonna get it wrong and that's okay. How are you going to act when you get it wrong? Is what is important. Are you going to actually take a step back and have that empathy and compassion towards yourself to say, yeah, maybe that wasn't the best, but it's okay. And what am I going to learn from it? Yeah, I can't speak enough about that. So this concept that living into your values is more than professing your values. It's making choices every single day to decide to show up for yourself. So what I argue about this concept of living into your values is that by living into your values, you are embodying the leader that you need. Think about that. We had this conversation about a best friend or a friend, recognizing that I can't be everybody's friend. Some people are going to want to be my friend, and that's okay. I can't be a great leader for everybody. I can be a great leader for myself, embody what leadership means to me, and model that for others around me. So by choosing to live into your values, you are the leader that you need. The rest will come. Thoughts, feelings, actions, emotions, jokes, queries, comments. We got some hearts. We've got a clappy. Anyone want to verbally share? Okay. All right. So thanks, Leslie. You guys, I always have this belief that the universe gives you exactly what you need. And I really believe that who's in this room is who's meant to be in this room. So recognizing your place, owning that 2 square feet of ground, and showing up for yourself and others is such an important piece to embody as we think about building these skills and mindsets into our lifestyle, because that's what it's all about. I mean, I can sit here and rhyme off all the good things that will happen. You are more likely to get a job because we're embodying skills and mindsets that employers are looking for. You are more likely to live with less stress and therefore less health things. But really, it's about finding a lifestyle that's filled with joy and makes you feel good. The rest is the fringe benefits. Okay, so what I want to offer, I'm going to summon you guys all to this one space on the mural. I invite you actually not to put Post-it notes on this one yet. You will have a chance, I promise, to go into breakout rooms and to do that. But let's keep this mural nice and clean for the people who are going to use it. So I want you to go on a little bit of a journey with me. We're going to go a little hokey here. So stretch your minds, don't tear them, and be okay with that. So what I would like you to do is I want you to have a conversation about water. Water is a thing. Today, water shows up like rain, but water is lakes, rivers, drinking water, whatever you want to, oceans. Water shows up for us in many, many different ways. I want you to think about water as an entity or water as a thing. Okay. What I want you to talk about is, in what ways does water embody leadership? In what ways does water fit into the structure of management? And what are water's values? Recognizing I don't want anybody to have more than 5 values. 2 to 4 is the best, but no more than 5. Okay. Thoughts, feelings, like clear, thumbs up if you feel clear, ask questions if you don't. 1 thumbs up, 2, okay. Good. Okay, there we go, lots more. I'll take it. Q, I'm gonna pass it to you to explain how to get into breakout rooms and where to go on the mural. And then we're gonna send them off. Let's send them off for 10 minutes.
Thank you, Luck. Okay, I'm just going to make that quick little change. Team, for those who maybe have not had a breakout session before in Zoom, in a minute, once I activate these breakout rooms, you're going to get prompted to go somewhere and join a different room. You actually have to click on the link in order to get there. And don't worry, when it ends, you'll automatically be back to the main group. The tip that we want to give you is whatever your room number is the one that is connected to the canvas you're going to use on the mural. So when you look at the mural, if you look along the right-hand side on the outline, you can see room 1, room 2, room 3, or above the canvas, you can see number 1, breakout room 1, number 2, breakout room 2. So we want you to actually work on the canvas that's aligned with your breakout room number. So when you get sent into your breakout room, just note if you're team 5 or team 6, and then make sure that when you're working together collaboratively and adding your contributions to the canvas, that you're working on the right canvas at all as well, just so that everyone has space to actually work. So with that, I'm going to open the rooms and invite you all to jump into your breakouts. If you do have a question, you can actually jump back out and ask us, or you can even ask on the mural. We'll be watching there too. Okay, so you're set for 10 minutes. I'll set a timer on the mural as well so that everybody can follow along as they go and have a lot of fun.
The spider is still in my life. There we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I'm so grateful to have you back. I think we're still waiting probably another 30 seconds for the rest of everybody to get back. So yeah, hang tight as we patiently wait with love and respect for everybody else. Well, we're back up in the 50s. It's climbing. Everyone is back. Okay, perfect. Hello, welcome back, everybody. Just so curious what you guys talked about, any insights, any values that came up, any contributions about how water leads or manages, period. Yeah, any thoughts? This is where I might sort of lovingly remind you guys to stretch, not tear. So if possible, I'd be so grateful. Yeah, thank you. To hear from a few of you.
Right. Hi, Laura. Hi, Quinn. Yeah, we had a good chat. There was 2 of us in the group. The other couldn't participate verbally or get into the mural. So we spoke about how water is carves and shapes landscapes. It forms, it creates those boundaries that we live within. And I'll have to go back to the mural board just to remember which ones we were group 7. So for leadership, we put it's an element of earth that we need to survive with. Water shapes and changes the landscape. We need to support and protect water and integrate our lives and actions to it. So I imagine for leadership, I mean, we need to support or encourage people that are leading, and it's fluid and there's flow to it. Management, water, we depend on water. Water manages all sorts of life. Like there's so much life living within water, from cells to whales. And the values we put, it's authentic. You know, it does have to be clean and filtered and fresh for us to use and for it to support our lives. It's cool, refreshing, and freedom, because it offers us ability to move within it and travel on it. So those were our thoughts with it. I don't know whether that's the right direction or not, but that's where we were.
So beautiful. Thank you so much, Carla, for sharing. And again, lovely to see your smiling face in the session. Yeah, I love that concept that it's free. One of its values is freedom, recognizing that one of the things I personally love about water is that it's flowing and it sort of goes down the path of least resistance, and it can embody what it needs to do while also carving away at sharp edges over thousands of years to make them round and eroding different landscapes. So this concept that water's free and it goes where it wants to, I think is a really, really beautiful, beautiful concept. So thank you so much for sharing that. Kaylin, sorry, did you want to share?
Yeah, sorry. I don't have access to the mural. So my partner and I, there's only two of us. So we just put that leadership sustains life, supports ecosystems, and it influences like a lot. The management was the control over like the entire planet. So it like controls the oceans, the lands, the crops, because of like the way that the precipitation works. So it like has a huge control over everything. And then the values would be wealth, balance, and wisdom. So that's just what we put for it.
I love that. So powerful. Yeah, there's so many questions I want to ask, but I recognize we're a little bit short on time, but I love this concept of one of its values is balance. Beautiful, beautifully said. Thank you so much. Anyone else want to share?
Yeah, some of the things that my team said was that as a leadership, water is, let me just find my group here. Well, actually, as management, we said that water helps plants to grow. And then the values would be power, because water is really powerful.
Yeah.
And then also peace, because like after the rain or during the rain, it just feels really peaceful. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just could talk about that one for forever. Thank you so much for sharing. I love how you put power and peace, which would theoretically be opposing values. But recognizing that I use the word polarity, but the two sides of the sort of the spectrum around what we see to be one trait, being power and peace, might be at tension, but really it's about how do we manage between them and float between them to create this beautiful balance. So really, really, really love that insight, and I'm so grateful for you to share it with us today. Anyone else? Okay. See that there is just some beautiful thoughts in the chat too that I really want to honor. That water is different sources, water carves its own path, flexibility and strength. Again, that concept of polarity between the two and how do we offer both, I think is such a beautiful insight. Can go from a stream to a tsunami. Yeah, in a heartbeat. So recognizing that it does what it needs to do in its moment. Water teaches us the value of flow in our lives, whether we have a beautiful mountain or as an opportunity, or another tough surfaces, absolutely. And what I always like to offer with this language is it teaches us by modeling it. And that's the whole concept. It models flow. it provides the example of being this flowing, beautiful, flexible thing. And that's why it teaches us, because it embodies it so well. Just a shameless plug for this whole conversation. We'll get back to that, don't worry. It attracts everything to it. It creates unity, absolutely. Knowledge, wisdom, the water has seen its time on earth, absolutely. Water is a very old entity and is the basis of survival for all living creatures. So recognizing that it has knowledge and wisdom to share and teach us is a really beautiful thought. Thank you so much. Water can be stronger than fire. I love that. Yeah, this concept of strength and power is coming through quite a lot with water. It's consistent and persistent, constantly just flowing regardless of what else is happening around us. It's calm. Yeah. Yeah, such beauty. And yeah, the last question I'd like to ask is, why do you think we're doing this? Why do you think we're talking about water? Why do you think we're talking about thinking about how something else does this? Besides the obvious, which I already told you, which is I believe it'd be inauthentic to do it personally because I think you need more time. But why this? Why now? Why this conversation? How does it relate to you?
I actually kind of had the same question, like, why did you choose water? So I actually don't really know why, but yeah. So I'd love to hear someone talking about why you chose it. Maybe because it's such a beautiful thing and it's so easy to talk about. It does so many different things. Yeah, I'm not sure.
I will share my reflection on it. Anyone have any insights first? Yeah. For me, it came up in two ways. First, look at how many different things water can be. Water is a river, water is an ocean, water is something we drink that sustains us. It's a waterfall, it's powerful, it's a dam that gives us electricity. It's everything. And the fact that each group came up with different values, leadership methods, management for water, I think is the most beautiful metaphor of all. We are all human beings with our own values, with our own leadership and management style. And just like water, we need to think about how that shows up for us. What are the values that we see? Doesn't mean that there might not be a connection to a bunch of different values, but what are the core values you choose for yourself? And how are you going to show up as the water you are meant to be? Whether you are the river, the ocean, the waterfall, the dam, the survivor that gives life. And the second kind of comes to my corny nature that we are all, I don't know the exact percentage, but about 70% water. So recognizing that this is already in you. These values, this leadership, this management is already part of you. And I'm not asking you by any means necessary to be something you're not. I'm not asking you to embody this pedestal style trait of leadership that we all think the world needs. I'm asking you to look inside and say, what do I value? How does that show up for me? And how am I going to make choices every single day that embody my values so that I can be the leader that I need? That's what this conversation is about. Debunking this concept that you need to be a manager to be a leader. Debunking this concept that leadership is this trait that you either have or you don't. Debunking this concept that leaders need to be these superhumans that can do everything. You are the leader you need, and all you can do is model the way. So what choices are you going to make in service of yourself to do that? That's why I chose water. Because it's kind of beautiful, just like all of you. Before we sort of go into our final debrief, is there anything that anyone would like to add to this conversation? All right. I know it's Friday morning. It's like the worst time to have this conversation because you think that you need your coffee, you need to settle in, but I also think that it's the most beautiful time because it really starts off your day in this beautiful reflective space. So I know there are lots of beautiful, familiar faces and names out there. So you are all familiar with this little tradition I have. If you are not, I'd like to invite you into it. A tradition that I like to finish all of my workshops with is this concept of intentionality. So we have just had this really beautiful conversation filled with such gorgeous insights that hopefully spark a little bit of reflection on who we are and how we want to show up as leaders and as people. And my ask, invitation, whatever, is to really look at that bridge from learning to action. So we just had this gorgeous conversation. Now, I feel like I'm going to swear again, but what the heck are we going to do about it? So what actions are we going to make moving forward that are going to support the learning we had today? How this works is, I am going to summon all of you. I want you will see that there are intention cards. I might actually share my screen at this point because I know we have quite a few people who are struggling with the mural. So I'm going to share my screen for this section just so everybody can see. In this section, there are 5 different intention cards. And today I invite you to think about your own wellness and how are you going to show up for you, which is what this conversation is all about. So I will act with courage. I will embrace stillness. I will set boundaries. I will practice gratitude, or I will take care of myself. What I hope you do is take a Post-it note underneath. First thing I want you to do underneath one that resonates with you. I want you to write your name on that Post-it note. There is research out here that says when you write your name on something, you are much more likely to do it. So that is the only reason why I'm asking you to write your name, is just to own it and claim it and make it yours. Secondly, I want you to specifically and tangibly write with strong language how you are going to do that. So I will practice gratitude. How are you going to practice gratitude? Are you going to phone a sibling and say thank you for something they recently did for you? I want you to really think about that act that you're going to do to embody that intention. Write it on the card or write it on a Post-it note, excuse me, and hold that near and dear to your heart. If it works for you, I like to write, I call myself an environmentalist and also love being able to write things down and use good old-fashioned pen and paper. So if you are also that human, feel free to write it on a Post-it note in your own life, in your own piece of paper that you can carry with you and put in your pocket, however that suits for you. Yeah, I also have to selfishly say that this is always my favorite. The reason why it's become a tradition is because it's my favorite thing to do after we've just had these really beautiful and inspiring conversations, to hear all the learning and hear all the actions that people are going to do in service of the learning they just had. And I would even go so far as to say, if we all leave this workshop thinking about one way we are going to embody our values and embody leadership, think about the impact the 54 of us that would have, just by 54 people doing one act. You could write, yeah, thanks for that question. I was the facilitator, but you can write both names, Quentin Evans and Laura Cosa. For those who need to write it down for things, which I know some of them do. Yeah, I'll answer that question in just 1 second, I promise. I just want to say just a wholehearted and deep-seated thank you to all of you guys for being here and being engaged and sharing and connecting with yourself so that you can connect with others. This is such a beautiful topic and one that's so near and dear to my own heart and one that I am incredibly passionate about. So it warms my space and warms my energy when I see other people connecting with it and choosing to act moving forward in this way. So you guys are an incredible group of students, and I actually think I see a few staff and faculty names in here too, so I want to shout out. Thank you for all of your love and intentionality and values, because each one of your values matter to me, and I'm grateful that you're here to talk about them. I always like to, sort of my own tradition is, if you have questions, so I saw a question in the chat about, I can't remember now, workshop facilitators' names, I think. If you have questions, I'm going to pause the recording, sort of say goodbye to everyone. Then I'll answer all the questions at the end. If you don't have questions, feel free to head off and enjoy the rest of your day. If you do have questions, feel free to hang on and connect. Sending love and gratitude to all of you for a wonderful last day of Changemaker and Residency Week.